Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to session 2C, How Can Public Authorities Steer Freight and Service Consolidation, which is chaired by Astrid Bjorgen from SINTEF. My name is Giacomo Lozzi, and I'm a urban freight coordinator at POLIS Network. Before giving the floor to Astrid, I would like to inform you about housekeeping rules. So first of all, to ask questions, you go to chat on the top right of your screen and then session. So you will have there the chat of the session, and you can type your questions there, and we will ask them to the speakers on your behalf. Then we have prepared a poll to ask you from which sector you are. So you can again click on top right on polls and fill in the question. Then to view who is attending this session, you can go to people and then session, and you will see the list of people participating, and you can write direct questions to them as well. Then to maximize the screen, you can hide the chat box with the arrow on the top right, or double click on presentation or the speaker, and you will maximize the screen. Then after the session, you can try the networking function and also visit the exhibition area where our sponsors and projects are showcased. So we are going to have a discussion around consolidation for freight, and we have four distinguished speakers. Then Astrid will introduce them in a due time. So I thank the speakers in the meantime for joining the session, and now I leave the floor to Astrid. Thank you. And sorry, and don't forget to use our hashtag POLIS20 for your social media interaction. Thanks a lot.
Yes, hello. Do you see the screen?
Yeah, but you have to put the full screen mode, I think.
It's okay now?
Good.
Yes, my name is Astrid Bjorgen. I'm from SINTEF, which is a research organization in Norway, and I will try to moderate this session about how can public authorities steer freight and service consolidation. And before I introduce the speakers, I will address some points to map the background for this session. And it's all about the mobility systems, which is really essential for developing sustainable cities, active and livable, and have a health perspective and also equal. And goods movement and personal mobility, which is all part of the mobility system in the cities, and also smaller and bigger cities, they are becoming more and more closely linked. But it is a lack of knowledge about freight and logistics in the urban mobility context, and it's also poor understanding of the stakeholders' needs, both the private and the public stakeholders. So also the ability to plan accordingly due to the urbanization and densification is the background that makes this challenging. And we do have at the time changing paradigm in the mobility planning. It is largely, as I mentioned, largely been neglected in the urban context, and it's however, though, the urban freight accounts for an increasing share of the traffic in the urban mobility. Due to the e-commerce really growing now with the COVID, it's a lot of changes in the last mile logistics. we see a growing number of smaller vehicles used in the urban supply chain, competing for space and time. And it's a lot more home deliveries compared to earlier, and that makes another use of the space we have available. And an important challenge as well is the environmental impact. That is as local pollution, traffic safety, congestion, parking, and lack of space to mention. So the urban area, it is the meeting point, but it's also the point for potential conflicting point. And that is due to all the stakeholders, the public infrastructure, and the public space. So how do we handle these challenges? And one way is to pay a lot more attention to the planning for the use of urban space. We have a lot of complexities. It is both people, goods, and services. And don't forget the waste. It's returning, and home deliveries, there people are not at home. It all makes a lot of transport. It's both private and public stakeholders with a lot of conflicting aims. It's also the public stakeholders representing different governance levels, which make it hard to coordinate. And all the private stakeholders as well, representing different stages in the supply chain, make this as a complex landscape. And what is the public authorities' role in this situation? I think I have four key points, but I'm sure it's a lot of several key points. But planning and policy mix, procurement and public services, that is something we would like to go into with the speakers. And also the use of urban space is one thing, but we also need to know a lot more about how to integrate e-commerce in the city planning, not just the urban logistics, but also the e-commerce in city planning. And within my research institute, we have a project snapshot where we are looking at the knowledge do we need and what kind of data do we need. And I hope that could be good questions that you bring along with when the speakers are presenting their projects, and gives you motivation for some questions and the discussion afterwards. So first, after that introduction of the topics, I would like to leave the floor to people from the city of Groningen, Jeroen and Sjouke. So you are welcome to take the presentation on the screen.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes, I see you. Nothing. Hi, my name is Sjouke van der Vlugt. I'm here representing the city of Groningen. I work as a policy officer on the urban planning department, and I will tell you something about the governmental approach of the city of Groningen when it comes to sustainable city logistics. And the second part of the presentation will be done by my colleague Jeroen Berends. So I'll just try to share my screen. And the PowerPoint is not in it, so let's... I guess you can see the presentation right now on your screen. No, Jeroen says no. Then let's try it the other way.
I think, sorry, Astrid, you have to stop sharing your screen. Yeah, and I'll try again, Sjouke.
Yeah, thank you, Astrid.
You're welcome. Sorry for that.
No problem. I think this works right now, I hope.
Good.
Perfect.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. All right. Presentation mode. start first with an introduction of the city of Groningen. Groningen is a city with a medieval city center. The city is around 1,000 years old. It's lying in the north of the Netherlands. It's the biggest city of that part of the country. And the city has a population of around 230,000 people. And the region around it, depending on the city on the daily basis, is around 500,000 people. Groningen is really a cycling city with over 60% of the moves within the city by bike. And on the left, you can see a map. It looks like a metro map where the public transport from the region is connected to the city with trains and with electric buses. And good to know, Groningen is a very young city with a lot of students, which makes the city very vibrant. And the motto of the city is a green city, happy city, and a healthy city. And today in the Dutch newspapers, we could read that Groningen right now is the healthiest city of the Netherlands, proven by research. Here you can see the list, and it's very, very nice on working on such a city. And I'll explain to you how we do it within the next few minutes. I'll start with the smart distribution. One of our goals is not only being a cycling city, but also becoming the cargo bike capital of the world, or one of the cargo bike capitals, and replacing as much vans as possible by cargo bikes, for instance. But logistics is about more than only cargo bikes, of course. When we're looking at history and distribution, you can see that the pollution in the cities is nothing new. Now it's the diesel we are trying to ban, but 100 years ago it was the horse manure, and also congestion with horse and wagons was a big problem. And then the cars came in as a solution, but and the cars are now a new problem. And on the top right corner you see the picture of Groningen, of the main street, where people are trying to enjoy the street, but also the vices wagon is passing, and you can see here how the different types of using public space are fighting about space. And on the right lower side, you see a picture of actually the first city hub in Groningen. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, but this was at the edge of the inner city, and the trucks from the region came here to park, and then with a hand cart they did their deliveries and their drops in the city. Like I told you, Groningen is the healthiest city in the Netherlands right now. There's quite a long tradition on becoming a compact city for people, for pedestrians, for cyclists. This all started in the 70s with the traffic circulation plan. Cars were from that moment on not allowed anymore to pass from one section in the city to the other one. And that created a lot of space for people, for pedestrians. And we started changing the public space and redesigning it. And I think about 20 years later, in 1996, there was a comprehensive plan for the streets of the city, redesigning them. And from that moment on, the streets were really used in the way they looked, in the way they should, connected to the use of the pedestrians and the cyclists. And the last 20 years, from that moment on, we saw things getting busier and busier in the inner city. So from 2016 on now, we are working on a plan called Space for You, and creating even more space for the people, because you see on the two pictures on top on the right, the buses were driving in the middle of the streets, and the pedestrians were forced on a really small sidewalk in the past. And we took the buses out, and you see in the lower picture that the streets is given back to the people. But then again, you see the pressure on public space, because the parked bikes took over the space. In this plan, we're working on for the inner city also some measures on logistics are in that. So I will take you through some process steps we took on realizing on making our plans for smart distribution. This all started in 2014. That was the first moment where we really set the ambition for zero emission logistics. And then the next big step was in 2017. That's when Jeroen and I came in. And the first thing we did was installing a focus group on sustainable logistics in Groningen. And this focus group was a group of representatives of all the stakeholder groups. So the shop owners were represented, but also the cafe owners, also the logistics companies, etc. And with this focus group, we worked on a local covenant, which we signed in 2018. And in this covenant, the ambition was we created a common ambition for the whole group, and in the covenant also different actions for all the stakeholder groups were mentioned. And of course, there were quite some actions for us as a local authority, and these actions we worked out in the plan for sustainable city logistics, which we are working on right now. We just had a public consultation on the draft version of the plan. And now we're working on the final version, which will be sent to the City Council in March 2021. And the next two steps in 22 and 25, I will show you in the next slide, because they are about the content of our plan. The first big measure we are going to take is enlarging the area with a time window frame for logistics. This will be in 2022. You can see on the pictures on the right the current area in blue and the future area in pink. So a lot of inhabitants and also especially shops and cafes and restaurants will come in this area within, let's say, a year from now. The second measure is introducing the zero emission zone for the same area in 2025. There's now also a national framework with rules. So the rules will be in the Netherlands for all the zero emission zones the same. And the third measure is introducing enforcement with cameras. We've been doing some small project with it, and we'll put cameras at all entrances of the zone. And the fourth measure is a new exemption policy, because we know that also in the afternoon, outside of the time window frame, different function and logistics flows will really need to get into the city. For instance, the waste collection is sometimes really necessary, but also a lot of other flows need to get in, and it will be in a very, very controlled and strict way. That's in a nutshell our plans. Beside the governmental approach, we work on quite some projects and activities within the different programs. And Jeroen Berends will tell something about it right now. Jeroen.
Yes. Can the audience hear me? I guess so. So my colleague will help me with the slides. So please move to the next slide. So, as Sjouke mentioned, we are quite active.
Maybe it's an echo there, so maybe you, Sjouke, should turn off, mute your microphone.
Is the echo gone?
Yes.
Oh, better. So as Sjouke, my colleague, told you about what we are doing as a city, in the field of logistics, we're quite active on trying to work on smarter logistics solutions. And we do that in cooperation with some of our main stakeholders, as also described before. And also what we saw is that if you involve those stakeholders, you see becoming more familiar with the topic logistics, because it's a difficult topic, urban logistics, and very challenging also for them to work on. And I will explain a bit more about two of these projects that we are doing and that we are creating with our stakeholders. And here you can see, by the way, the fish market in Groningen, and on the left is the label of Warenhuis Groningen, which can be translated as a department store. It's an online department store for local businesses, mostly small and independent shops. And the second topic is Grokaal, and I will introduce that later on. And this is all about living La Vida Local, which is not a Ricky Martin song, but more about the hashtag Buy Local. Because what we have noticed in our work as policy advisors in this theme of urban logistics is that innovation towards cleaner deliveries is mostly and first mostly picked up by local shops, cafes and restaurants. And the use of cargo bikes in this field, supplying local shops and organizing their deliveries looks like a great marriage. So we have done quite a bit on connecting local couriers, working with cargo bikes and local shops and restaurants. So I'm going to dive a bit more into the Warenhuis project, or the department store project. 188 independent shops spread out through the municipality of Groningen are organized here on one portal. And the original idea was to create a platform for local shops where they could showcase their products that are sold in these shops, and also as a counterpartner for the big e-commerce platforms that are popping up like crazy. And the website was created to help consumers to find brands and labels that are sold in these shops, and to persuade them also to visit these shops, to not order them at Amazon, but to buy them locally in the shops. And but of course, this project started almost a year ago, pre-Corona. But after Corona, COVID-19, things changed very quickly. Also, with this department store online, because with hardly any visitors due to the lockdown, and everybody was forced to stay at home, local shops also needed to shift from bricks and mortar to a more online presence in order to survive. And so this department store got a real boost. Originally maybe a couple of shops were involved, but all of a sudden everybody wanted to be involved. So that was a big win for us to have 180 plus shops on board. The project was originally initiated by the shop owners organization in cooperation with Dutch in Retail organization, a startup called Zapper, which is the party behind all the technical stuff, and we as a municipality. And our part was, of course, connected to logistics and deliveries. So we funded it with a subsidy to create cargo bike deliveries, free deliveries, in order to persuade people to shop on this platform and to promote the website, of course. So that was the first project, which is still ongoing and has also a lot of challenges to face, because it's not easy to win from these big parties like Amazon. And another local initiative is called the Grokaal box, with the GRO, of course, for Groningen, and the KAAL translating to local, so local from Groningen. Also originated because of the pandemic, and is in a way also another example of local pride with a focus on buying local. And basically it's nothing more than a box filled with items from local shops and suppliers with a focus on locally produced food. Items from the participating shops like tea and coffee bars, also wine and cheeses are collected in one place, in a way a logistics hub, and from there on distributed to the consumers, with the use of cargo bikes. And here on the picture, you see the two guys behind the project, and both of them are also riding themselves cargo bikes, so that also helps. So, and these boxes were created like a couple of months ago, and we see, especially in times of celebration, and the Christmas times are coming up, that the demand of these boxes are rising. And it started maybe with 25 boxes a week, and now it's growing up till 200, I heard. So for us, this is another example of how we can use the cargo bike in urban logistics, small initiatives. And here is, by the way, an example of what is to be found in such a box. And I finish my presentation, well, not with this slide actually, but here you can see how we are delivering these boxes with cargo bike trailers and different kinds of cargo bikes, involving also different kind of cargo bike companies. So what we really would like to see developing here in Groningen, because we ride bikes so often, 60%, as Sjouke said, but to become a cargo bike capital is another thing, and all these initiatives help us to well, maybe to reach that goal, and we are quite active in this field, not only with cargo bikes, but with promoting also our other topics and things involving urban logistics. So, and we also realized, especially with our other sister cities in the north, Assen and Leeuwarden, the bigger cities in the northern Netherlands, that we need to share also our projects. So we launched a website called Logistiek Noord. It's in Dutch only, but this is a platform where we share all our urban logistics initiatives. And the cargo bike talks is one of the video productions we also put on this website. That is in English, so for the international audience, I think it's worthwhile serving to this website and to listen what we are doing with cargo bikes. The latest session was recorded last week, and we're talking there about a pilot with Dutch PostNL, also the Grokaalbox, which I just described a couple of minutes ago. And there's another talk with New Wheel, a cargo bike trailer company from Hamburg. So I think that concludes our talk from Groningen, from policy making to cargo bike talk. So we covered the whole shebang. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeroen and Sjouke. There is some questions in the chat, and one that about the products, what kind of products you are delivering. I think you mentioned quite a few products in your last presentation, but what about the electric vehicles? You have talked a lot about the e-cargo bike, but is it small electric vans which are allowed to come into the city center of Groningen?
Yeah, there are two different questions actually. These projects I described, and the department store online and the Grokaalbox are mostly using cargo bikes because they are smaller boxes to be delivered, although the department store also offers sofa and furniture, so that's another challenge. And the project is also evolving and looking at other logistic partners to be part of the department store online. And the other question was more about entering the city center with electric vans. And of course we allow that because we are not naive and thinking that everything can be organized with cargo bikes. In a way, a symbol to promote zero emission logistics. So electric vans, especially in the package deliveries, are quite common nowadays, almost maybe growing to 100%. These big parties, PostNL, DHL, they also have the ability to buy electric vans and use them in our inner city. So we see them regularly.
Do the municipality provide some financial support to buy this electrical vans or cargo bike? That is one question, and also about the support to this platform that you are creating. Is it some public funding here?
Let's start with the first question about funding. We are from Groningen. We are in some EU-funded projects, and we fund projects with local companies, but we don't provide money for buying vehicles. So that's a thing that the companies should do. But we are organizing with them the pilots, the project, and bring customers and supply and demand together with them, and creating the right base in the city of Groningen. For instance, the electric vans are allowed to supply all day instead of diesel vans. So there are that's a different approach, but it's not not that we buy vehicles for the companies. No. And help me again with the second question.
Oh, it was about this platform you have developed for the
shops.
suppliers. Yeah.
Well, for the shops, it's a project from the shop owner organization, and they did get some funding from the municipality for the project. Yes. Yeah.
So it's like getting running, started and
to get it running. Yeah, because
yeah.
There's quite some costs in making the platform digitally and adding the products to it. So the shop owner organization pays a part by itself and a part from subsidies.
Good. I think that is a nice presentation from the city of Groningen and what is going on there. And we will take some further questions in the panel discussions after all the three speakers are the presentation are finalized. So I think we go to the next presenters, which is Alexandra from city of Mechelen. She's gonna talk about the smart locker network. So maybe Alexandra, are you ready? Maybe the Groningen still share, or
I'm trying to get Alexandra. Should be able to share video and audio. Okay, her button doesn't work. Okay, maybe in the meantime that I fixed the problem with Alexandra, we can go on with Susanne.
yes, the Susanne Balm from the University of Applied Science in Amsterdam. You are ready for your presentation?
Yes.
Good. So just continue.
Yes, well, welcome everyone. My name is Susanne Balm and I work at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. And today I present you our steps and the lessons in a project where we use our own procurement power to make the city logistics more efficient and more sustainable. I work as a project leader in the research group City Logistics in Amsterdam. So in this project, it's about the University Quarter, and we've set up a challenge logistics together with our facility services department. So we collaborate with our own facility services group, and it's a collaboration between the University of Amsterdam and the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. So you can imagine that we are a very large organization in the city. I will also show you a map with all our locations. We are a very large employer. This also means that we buy a lot of goods every year to get to our university. And it's an interesting perspective to look at our own procurement power in making logistics more efficient. I started working at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences in 2014. And it has been really nice to in sort of practice what we preach, to not only research others but also research ourselves. So this is also what we do with the University Quarter. You can see a picture here of the area. It's really in the inner city of Amsterdam, surrounded by water and small bridges. And I work together here also with the manager of housing, the facility manager, but also the project manager of food and drinks. And of course, we collaborate a lot with our students from logistics groups, but also from mathematics and business administration. Well, the question that we have for this area, because this area will be redeveloped, there's a lot of renovation going on because it's such an old area and we want to prepare it for the future. And the question is, how do we supply the area efficiently and emission-free? Well, of course, it's tempting then to think about solutions right away when we have this question. But I also want to share you our approach, and this is this 5 stars method of change, where we not go to the solution right away, but first we want a better understanding, we want to have more insight into the topic, and we want more inspiration first from others as well. So today I'm not going to present a lot of solutions, but I'm sharing the steps that we have taken to come to this. Here are some pictures about the area. It's very old. It was built in the 16th century, first as a nursery home, and from the 19th century it has the function of a university. Here you can see also the small bridges, which are very vulnerable, and that has also become very clear in the beginning of September. You can see the picture on the right, where just this whole quay just collapsed. And well, there's a high risk in Amsterdam. We are aware of that. There are more vulnerable bridges and quays. Well, when it comes to logistics, it's very challenging, as we don't want to have very heavy vehicles in the area. But at the same time, we don't want to have many vehicles because it's also a car-free area. On the left, you can see the dotted line where the University Quarter is. You can also see the distance of 500 meters from covering the whole area. It's a very mix of living, studying, working. But also there are a lot of shops, restaurants. It's also a lot of very creative and recreative place. To organize all the logistics in this area, we have already envisioned a logistics point in the area where all the goods will come. Well, this is a map just showing that the central logistics point in this area will be 600 square meters, so that's quite a big point on the ground floor and on the -1. So this building is it's going to be renovated and built in the next few years, and we're already thinking of, well, how will this area, this central logistics point, function? The questions that we have are very broad. There are very many. Just to highlight some, we would like to know what the expected logistics demand is for this area, because we want to know how we can make use of this function of the logistics central point in the area. But we also want to know which logistics concepts are possible to distribute the goods to this area. do we invite all our suppliers to come to this area, to the central logistics point, and will we distribute it from there on? Or maybe we would like to make use of central, city hubs on the outside of the city before it enters this inner city area. We also would like to know, what does it mean for the organization of receiving freight at this point? What does it mean for the roles and responsibilities of our employees? What kind of vehicles can be used in this area? Well, there are many questions and also many different freight flows, and I will show you a few in a minute. And here are already some suppliers mentioned that are involved in our project, covering, well, printing paper, food, office supplies, laptops, etc. But as I said, I already started the research in collaboration with our Facility Services department in 2014. So a lot has happened already in the last few years. We've already implemented quite some solutions, but it's quite new that we're now focusing on this university quarter, as it's also being developed, and it will be a lot, become more busy, expected in, well, when it's ready in 2025. But in the last few years, we've already installed parcel lockers. Since 2016, we've consolidated our goods at the city hub in 2017. We also made use of cargo bikes, or at least we asked our catering company to make use of cargo bikes. And also from 2019, the window cleaners are also using electric vehicles. So this is the map that I wanted to show you, where you can see that all the green and blue dots is where all the university locations are. So there are many in the inner city. The green area in the inner city, that's the university quarter. I'm not sure whether you can see my mouse, probably. Yeah, here, this is the university quarter. But my own location, for example, is here, the blue one, and we have also some locations on the outside. And the other dots that I wanted to show you is where all our suppliers come from. So since 2017, we've already consolidated some freight flows over here at the edge of the environmental zone. For example, the toilet paper is brought here first, and there's some inventory before it's distributed to the city. We have one of our suppliers of the vending machines. They have a micro hub at these locations where they can use light electric vehicles from. Laptops and phones are distributed by also a small core in the inner city. We have a central reception point for business parcels over here at one of our post offices, the post locations. We have another hub for parcels, for private parcels, which are distributed in the lockers. And then when it comes to food and drinks, we have, well, this is of course before and hopefully after Corona. One of the biggest flows is related to food. We have a big catering company, it's called Seerfood, and they are making use of Sligo to buy all their goods. But we also have a lot of local entrepreneurs in the canteens, as we would like, as a university, we would like to stimulate the local entrepreneurship. And it also means that we have another freight flow from all these small local entrepreneurs that are selling their specialties in the canteens. And we have a subcontractor for lunches and drinks for events. Then we rent a lot of goods every year when there are events, extra chairs, tables, coming from here. And then this clean washing company is also in Amsterdam. So as you can see, and I hope this also inspires you when you work at a municipality or when you work at a university or at a big office, to also when you work on city logistics, to start looking at your freight flows and what you can do yourself in your procurement processes to make this more sustainable. So we have invited and stimulated and also requested for suppliers to make use of electric vehicles, to collaborate with other suppliers for bundling, and that has resulted in a big reduction of freight flows in the inner city. So more deliveries are consolidated on the edge of the city before they enter into the University Quarter, for example. Well, if I look at this 5-star method of change for sustainable change, is that we really struggled with this. The first step, getting a better understanding of what we mean with logistics demand. It appeared to be very difficult, to really get the right data and to see, as we want to estimate, to quantify what the logistics demand is. You can talk about articles, products that you order, an order which includes different products. For example, you have a crate that can contain different orders. There's a shipment which can contain different crates, and of course, in the end, we also want to know the volume that is entered at a time, as we want to calculate the storage at our premises. So this is quite a struggle when you start, and when if you want to relate this to the circular economy, you also even want to talk about the raw materials that you're buying, that you're procuring. And I have an example to further explain this, the challenge that we have, and maybe there's some time in the panel discussion as well to talk about the data collection, because if we have a lot of data sources, but they are also fragmented, and that it's difficult and very time consuming to get valuable information about it. When we look, for example, if this presentation would have been a physical meeting and I would have invited you to my office, maybe I would have bought some cookies for you and some juices and coffee. And this is what you see here in the left. We do have all the data on what we order, but then our catering company, they are purchasing it at Sligo, the food supplier, and Sligo is making a planning for all the shipments. All these data, we also have it to analyze it, and then also some of the orders are outsourced. This is also a data source. So as you can imagine, we have been using a lot of time to analyze all these data sources to get a better idea, a better understanding of what is going into the University Quarter. And then this has resulted in different graphs. Here, for example, you can see on different locations what they order, what the average order is, and also the top 10 busiest days per location. As this is also something that I would like to end with, that it's very important, of course, to get a better understanding of patterns, as there are a lot of fluctuations, not even considering Corona, but also in a year. Of course, it's less busy in the summer and during the holidays. So you would like to be prepared also for the peak days. So averages don't really tell a lot when we are preparing the logistics solutions. Another aspect of getting better insight is that we would like to know, what are we causing and why? Why do we generate, for example, so many deliveries for chairs and tables? Well, that's because we don't have a lot of space on the locations. So for every meeting or every event, we just order and rent more chairs instead of, having them in the location itself. This, of course, this is, consideration between how much space do we have and how much logistics do we generate. So the next steps, the last months, we have been really focusing on getting all these data, not only for food, but also for all the other parcels, and also other non-food freight flows. And now it's, we're working on a better design of the logistics concepts for the different flake flows. There's a lot of tension for transport over water, especially for the collection of waste, which we would like to better explore. And the contract for catering is ending next year. So we're also thinking of what can we do as a organization in our contract with the catering company. What do we ask? What do we wish for? Do we want to have local products in the canteen? What does it mean for the logistics to our campus? All those kind of questions are very important to start to think or to include at the moment of procurement. So that's what we'll do next. Yeah, I hope this has inspired you, as probably many of you work at a public organization or at another large organization in cities, to really start thinking about your own procurement. And I'm happy to well, help you with that when you want to start. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Susanne. Really interesting. And the use of procurement is really a strong tool to try to consolidate. But have you tried to do this towards the municipality of Amsterdam as well, or is it just the private stakeholders who you do cooperate with?
We do also collaborate with the municipality, as they are also using their own procurement power for efficient logistics. So, for example, our printing paper, it's consolidated at the same location. And so both for the municipality and for our university. So in that sense, we're trying to collaborate. And when it comes to the University Quarter, there's a strong collaboration, as, for example, the rules and regulations for transport over water need to be set up by them and by us together. So they are asking us what we would like to have when it comes to transport over water, and they need to see whether it fits.
Yeah, so that when you cooperate with the municipality, you're also able to make larger orders
yes.
to each delivery location.
Yes, yeah, and of course, what's also interesting about this collaboration is that for both the municipality and for our organization, it applies that every 4 years we need to renew the contract with, for example, for office supplies. So if they have the same vision as we do, then it's also more clear for the suppliers that they need to start thinking about these logistic solutions. And it also happened before that their supplier switched, but it became our supplier. So then, then it helps if we have the same vision of the good supply.
That's good. So you're managing actually a quite large area for the whole university area, and also some municipalities who are located close to the university area.
Because they are, we are. We are in similar locations. Yeah.
But who is actually running the hub?
Well, we have actually multiple. The big hub for facilitated goods like printed paper and office supplies is run by DPD. They are originally a moving company, and they are now because their location is so strategic next to the environmental zone, they have found a new proposition for facilitated goods. And then we have another hub for the parcel, smaller parcels, and that's run by the contract partner for Post and for Post.
Okay, and the business model is like included in the services, so it's no municipality or public funding?
No, well, that's an interesting point. We have stimulated our suppliers to collaborate with the hub themselves, and we are not subsidizing it.
Yeah.
So we've left it over to the market. So we said this is our wish. We would like to have it more sustainable, and we've brought the partners together, and it's up to them to to negotiate about the prices.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe some further questions in the panel discussion, but maybe Alexandra from Mechelen, Do you have the, thank you, Susanne. Do you have the presentation ready now from Mechelen?
Yes, I'm here.
Good.
Okay, yeah, technology, it's wonderful, but also very much a mystery sometimes.
But now you're ready. Go
I'm
on.
ready. I'm gonna share my screen. Yeah. Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm Alexandra. I'm a project manager for the city of Mechelen. And Mechelen is a medium-sized city. We have around 86,000 inhabitants. And we are working on various European projects, amongst others, SURFLOG. And SURFLOG stands for Smart Urban Freight Logistics Hubs. Now, I want to start my presentation by showing you this news. It's from around 2 weeks ago, and in general, it says like bpost, our national postal service, can't keep up with parcel deliveries at home. And right now, at this moment, they're delivering 600,000 parcels per day. It's the most they've ever delivered per day, but this number will only grow because the holidays aren't over yet. And the point I want to make with this is that we knew this was coming. We knew with the boom of e-commerce that there would be a point where parcel delivery would get stuck somewhere. And this is, well, this is the thing that we knew this was coming, but we didn't know that it would happen this quickly, just over 1 year, and we absolutely didn't know that it would be caused by Corona. So luckily in Mechelen, we have kind of been preparing for more e-commerce, Project SURFLOG. And this is by placing smart lockers across the city. So we also like to call them our mailboxes of the future because you can receive and pick up parcels whenever you want. It's available 24/7. So what did we do? We wrote out a tender to get 4 smart lockers in our city. Very important for us was that it was on public domain, so that it would be available 24/7, but also that it would be an open system so other delivery companies could make use of it. And as you can already see on the picture, bpost won this tender. And by making available these lockers on public domain, we are not only consolidating pickups and deliveries in the city, but we're also getting rid of failed home deliveries, mostly. And this, of course, then leads to less driven kilometers, more CO2 reduction, and overall just a safer and healthier city. As you can see on the picture, we have 4 big lockers right now in the city, mostly on the ringway of the city. This is so cars can also safely stop there and pick up or drop off a parcel. Now, the locker in the north of the city is the best used one, and I have some numbers for you, where you can also see the big impact that COVID has had on the usage of the lockers, because February, when there was no COVID yet, we had around 1,500 parcels in 1 month, parcel movements in 1 month. Then April, we have an increase of almost 900 parcel movements for the same locker. And then now in October, where we have like a soft lockdown, there's also like a small increase, but it's not as big as in April. Now we do expect for November and December to have a big increase again with Black Friday, with the holidays coming up. So we're actually really looking forward to seeing the numbers and then see how it grows and how the usage is working. But with these numbers, we can also see that there's like a big need and also good use of the lockers like these. And it's also through projects like these that, and our strive for a more greener, more livable city, that bpost came back to us with another question, and they wanted to run their pilot in our city. and this pilot is called the Ecozone. And this is where it gets interesting, because the 4 big lockers that we already had, they need anchoring in the ground, and they need a connection to electricity network. And also, not to mention that they're just really big. They can be 5 to 9 meters long, and so it's not something you just put somewhere in your city center. You have to think about it very well. Now, within the project of the Ecozone, the proposal of bpost was to put 50 lean lockers of 1 meter in the city center, or around the city center, in and around the city center, at 400 meters distance, more or less. And this is a big improvement. They don't need anchoring in the ground, and they work on batteries. So there's no need anymore to connect them to the electric network. Other points in this Ecozone project is that all pickup and deliveries will be done with zero emission vehicles, be it like cargo bikes, electric vans. They're still like figuring out which is the best configuration of use of vehicles. And then the third very important point in this pilot project is that they will actively engage with local shop owners, with local businesses, to see if they have ideas for innovative integrations from the lockers. So, for example, a local shoemaker can put the fixed shoes in the locker on like pickup points, and then after hours the client can just go pick them up in the locker. So that's one example of how it can be used. Now, this is a great proposal, and of course we said yes to it. And the result after not even 6 months is that we now have 50. That's one too fast. That we now have 54 lockers at slipper distance. I already told you about this 400 meters distance between the lockers. bpost calls this the slipper distance. And why is that? They noticed that still a lot of users of the big lockers made dedicated trips by car to go pick up or drop off their parcel. And of course, this defeats the whole purpose of lockers in your city. So taking away this distance, you also take away the need for a car, and people can literally just go on their slippers and in their bathrobe to just pick up their parcel. So that's really nice. Now, of course, that's again too fast. You can't just go ahead and plant these lockers anywhere in your city. There are some practical tips that I have for you for cities or maybe businesses, I don't know. But it's very handy to have someone within the city who can work semi-full-time, well, depending on how fast you want to have it done, on the selection process of locations, and really be the single point of contact for the provider of the lockers. This is mostly because the provider of the lockers probably doesn't know your city this well, and they don't know if there are some sensitivities in certain areas, certain locations that shouldn't be, that aren't interesting to put a locker. So that's very important. And then other than that, there's like, well, the more logical points. So it should be a location where it's safe to stop for cars, bikes, and pedestrians without really disturbing ongoing traffic. There should be a minimum of 1 meter passage that has to be guaranteed at all times, or even more, depending on local regulations. By preference, it should also be close to a shared mobility point or public transport. And the last one, the one we learned the hard way, as you can see in the picture, is that it shouldn't be blocking any views, but because, well, inhabitants will complain about this and you will have to move it, and it's a very long process. So this is something you have to watch out for. But on the other hand, it's also important that it's not hidden somewhere, because this is also something that we found out, that if you put the locker somewhere where it's not really immediately visible, the usage of it will be lower than the lockers that are really visible in the city. Then some more learnings that we had is that you really should just check your regulations locally or nationally. Do you need a permit to install these kinds of lockers on public domain? At first we thought we did, and we had to go through a process of almost 3 months per locker to get a permit. But then we found out there was another way to approach this where we didn't need a permit. So this is good, but you should still be considerate about choosing the location and the placement of it. So you should really check with all stakeholders involved, each location. And this was for us, this was lots of departments internally, so of mobility, monuments, prevention, public space, building regulations, city development, but then also external, of course, with the provider of the locker. And then we needed a final approval of the Board of Aldermen and of the mayor for each specific location. And then the last step was if the locker is placed somewhere very close to somebody's home, or even maybe against the wall of somebody's home living in our city, we should of course also have their approval of putting the locker there. So as you can see, it is kind of a time-consuming job, but I think it's very well worth the investment, especially if you see what impact we can have on the environment, on the livability of a city, and we can really just make it a more greener and nicer and safer city for everybody. So that was all. If you have any questions, I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Alexandra. There are some questions to your presentation. What sort of system is Matthew Petersons, who is asking what sort of system is used for charging the lean hubs or exchanging the batteries?
This is something bpost really takes up on itself. We actually don't know the technicalities of how they get charged, but they told us that it's a system with batteries and they swap them out whenever it's needed, and that's how it works.
Okay. What about the package stations, the micro hubs? Is it digital keys, or is it one home have each location or each box? How do they reach the box? Do they own their own box, or is it digital keys that is developed by the logistics service providers?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just with an app. You go up to the locker, and then you can unlock the little box where your parcel is in.
Yes.
With the app, and it opens up, and then you can close it again, and the next person can use it.
Yeah, good. So you have this is a cooperation with several logistics service providers, or is it just one who owns the station?
It's with one, so it's bpost who owns the station. For the big lockers, there is already the working in place that they can that other delivery companies can use the big lockers. So it's an agreement that bpost makes with the other delivery companies. For the pilot, really, they're still working on figuring out how to do this, because bpost on one hand promises to deliver everything with zero emission vehicles, but if there are other companies not using zero emission vehicles to deliver, this is something they're still working on. So that's yeah.
Good. Okay. It is some more questions here, I see, but maybe we can close up and take some of the questions in the discussion with the other panels representatives as well. So maybe from Groningen and Amsterdam, who you are able to share your camera. And the common thing is that they're all very interesting in urban freight. So this is good. I wonder, it's a lot of different actors here now in the supply chain and also on different municipality levels. Do some of you have some experiences about how to get good engagement with both the private and the public stakeholders? What is the success key to get them involved and involved early enough to be so they feel like they are a part of the process?
Maybe I can say something about it. I think that it starts with just talking a lot with each other about the problems, about the challenges, and trying to find common goals and working on them. And I think you need to talk to each other first before you come up with solutions. That the most important thing to do.
Yeah, I can share my experiences. What I found really helpful is that we approach it from more the procurement perspective, and what we see is that especially our large suppliers, they are really happy to serve us and to also serve us when we wish for sustainable logistics. So when the customer says, I want to have it delivered within 24 hours, they will also serve you in that way. But if you ask for more sustainable logistics and are really committed to do this, then I found this really helps in the collaboration between the public and private partners.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's to be aware of each other's needs and each other's positions in these landscapes. Probably a good start. It is a question to Mechelen here about the location of the lockers. Are they movable? So if you are not happy with one location, can you move them?
Yes. So this is the good thing about the EcoZone pilot that we have. The big lockers, they have anchoring in the ground that it's very hard to move them. But the small lockers, it's just with a small installation that they can pick them up, put them on a van or something, and then move them to another place. Yeah.
What about have you been trying to look into? We are mostly focusing on goods movement, but are you in the micro hubs developing the stations or the micro hubs? Have you been able to look into the needs for both personal mobility and goods movement, so you are connected the activities in one hub, like charging the bike at the same place as where you pick up your packages?
Yeah, so this is also part of the engagement that bpost is working on with local business owners. There are questions indeed about providing electricity inside of the lockers, so bike batteries can be recharged. So it's really a very big variety of questions and of ideas to make these lockers not only just a drop-off and pickup point, but really a useful instrument inside of the city to make it kind of a micro hub. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask something to Alexandra about this?
Welcome.
Do you also have ideas to use the lockers, for example, for maintenance repairmen that then can get their toolkit from the locker and go by cargo bike into the city?
Yeah, absolutely. This is very possible. Of course, bpost this is not something that we can really say like this, you have to do it or you can't do it. bpost is still figuring everything out, so they're collecting all ideas, even the wildest ones, and looking into if they're possible or not. That we as a city also have said like this would be very interesting to have. Also in the same idea or in the same mindset, we have like a tools library where people can just lend out tools that they need once or twice, maybe in a year. And it would be very interesting to just put them inside such a locker, so people can just go get them when they need it and just put them back.
Yeah. But that's also related to how we will use the lockers at our university, because they might also be used then for books from the library.
For example, I'm not sure yet where this will lead, but I think there's lots of possibilities with. Absolutely.
It's a lot of several needs that could be coordinated at a hub for this kind of purpose. And as I understood, though, the location of the lockers, they were the vision is that they are able to be used by several transport providers. But we have a new entrance of Amazon into the European market now, and now they're coming to Scandinavia as well. But how are you thinking about the entrance to the market? Are they gonna cooperate into these kind of hubs and locations, or are they like a big global actor that are not? They run their own structure. Do you have some suggestions to that?
Well, I think. Well, I hope they do. But of course, you never know with such big players. This is maybe even a question about regulations, because for now this is a pilot. But imagine that we implement this for good in our city, then this might also give us possibilities into providing more regulations and pushing bigger companies towards usage of the lockers. So it gives perspectives to use these lockers. But I'm not sure if they will use it out of their own ambitions, or if we shall have to tell them they have to.
This keyword regulation, I think, is really something to have in mind when you are looking into different pilots and what kind of measures are working in different situations. And if you want to change the behavior, the regulation in one or either direction is probably a really important tool to get the new improved policies. That's probably the next step, and after you're getting your experience with different pilots.
Yeah, I think so too.
It is a question here from Lucy Sadler. Is there a theft issue in the lean hubs are movable? Do you understand the question?
I guess that they're worried that the lockers are getting stolen. They're very heavy, so they would really need specific equipment to go and move them. For now, we also haven't had any issues of vandalism. You say that in English like this? Yeah, for now, we don't have any obstacles yet.
It is another question here related to the use of the cargo bikes, and maybe to Groningen about the bikes are using quite a lot of space and often competing with the walkers and regular bikers. Is that a situation for which you are looking into, or an issue you're looking into?
Yes, it's a growing issue. Questions also about it from people who live in the inner city. challenge with finding a balance in what's going on in the public space. It's not only cargo bikes, but also parked vehicles, logistics, traffic. As our inner cities get more crowded, we have to find solutions for that. At the moment, we don't consider it as a huge problem, but we have it in the back of our mind, and we're actually organizing in a couple of weeks' time a hackathon to find solutions for that, and also to look into systems where you can share cargo bikes as companies. But it will be something we need to discuss, and also when we talk about what kind of traffic we allow in the zero emission zone in a couple of years' time. But we do see we do prefer a cargo bike instead of a van, even an electric van possibly, because it fits better in our cities. So we will keep you posted on the website I described in my presentation, and also if you follow Surflog, that's the Interact project where Alexandra was talking about. We will keep you informed on that. And I also know that Bremen, for instance, the German city, also is organizing events related to this topic.
Yes, thank you. Another question here is to Amsterdam. What kind of systems or methods do you use to get an overview of what is needed and what is the logistics demand from each of the supplier?
Well, yeah, we now use mostly the data coming from our suppliers, so the ordering systems. But as I showed you in my presentation, they are very diverse. So sometimes when we switch to another supplier, the data set is different. So it's really, yeah, difficult to monitor it in the same way. And we're also doing interviews when data is missing, but it's especially because there's so many fluctuations, it's difficult to really get a good understanding through an interview. So we are thinking of how we could better monitor this in the future. Like, it would be really nice if we have, like, every Monday morning, we can see from a dashboard, for example, what we can expect from the freight flows coming in. So then we can also better prepare ourselves for the distribution on the campus. But yeah, we're thinking about this, but we don't know really who should take the responsibility of developing such a system, or you could maybe call it a dashboard. So if anyone has any ideas or suggestions, then that would be nice to hear.
The challenge is probably to make cooperation between actors who are actually competing in the supply chain. But that is something that could be good for the consolidation purpose, I think. Yeah,
and well, they're not always competing. Like the supplier for printing paper is not competing with the supplier for food, but it will be. But they now have different information systems, so we have different data sources from them. It would be nice to have this in a similar format. Yeah, and this is not available now, so.
Yeah, I think that is a key point. It's a lot of data out there about what is going on and what is demanded, but they are on different format. And what kind of data do we need for planning? And that is what we are trying to look into in our snapshot project, to see what do we actually know and what do we need to know, and what kind of data are available. So that is probably one of the key questions to get more sustainable logistics solutions in the future, I think. Yeah. And also there's possibilities to merge the personal mobility needs with the services, need for services and cargos. Some of you have some additional comments to the people who are listening or regarding your presentations?
I have another question for Sjouke and Jeroen. You explained the buying local platform. Do you also use this as municipality?
Well, we encouraged it among all the employers over here. Everybody got a discount here to persuade people to shop online. So in that way, we are helping them a little bit.
But then it's for their private. You mean for their private shopping?
Yeah.
Or is it also like maybe the Christmas presents from the municipality? Are they coming from the local company?
Not this year, I think, because mostly these Christmas packages are ordered 10 years in advance. So we are very much hoping for a better Christmas gifts, if I can say that. My colleagues won't listen anyway. To give us some sustainable gifts delivered by bikes. So although this year our gifts are being brought by bike, actually. So yeah.
But you're actually pointing to a good issue, because the municipalities often have a strong procurement to this is supposed to be delivered by electric vehicles, but they are not paying so much attention to how much, what is the load factor of these electric vehicles. So it's getting more knowledge about other issues that we have to look into due to urban logistics. It's not just the electric vehicles, it's a lot more to make this as a sustainable solution. But what about the Groningen hub? Do the municipality have some responsibility into it on this pilot stage?
We don't have that. No, the hub is really part of the companies who are doing the logistics.
Okay.
But when it's able, we are trying to stimulate them. For instance, our own postal services or express services. We always use the cargo bike companies for zero emission deliveries and just to not having to use cars in our city. But it's the business itself is just for the cargo bike and the logistics companies.
But also the municipalities, when they are making orders, they could have in their procurement that this deliveries has to go through the hub.
Yeah, that could be. We talked about it, and in the new procurement contracts, we demand clean delivery and bundled delivery when possible.
Yes.
But we don't demand using a hub. And we really believe that's it's up to the business itself to find the most effective solution. So that's a different strategy than for instance, I think Amsterdam the university used. But we want to leave that to the companies because they're specialized and we're not. We just want it clean and bundles.
Yeah, I see. Good. It's a lot of good comments here. A